I want to say thank you to those that are sticking around with me, Marie Shadows, and listening and supporting the Square Circle podcast, tape study series, the Crossroads series that will have interviews and editorials that are think pieces and Discord notes. It has been a whirlwind of a week, and this week we're talking about professional wrestling. But before we get there, I would like to say again, thank you so much for everyone that has reached out and checked in on me. Like I said, it's been a whirlwind of a week because of Charlie Kirk dying, and it might make people uncomfortable to talk about it, to think about it, and probably wondering if I decided to go off the deep end, quote unquote, or, however we want to phrase it, because I was waiting for someone to say that I've been crashing out. But I am going to state firmly that one of my core values is freedom of speech because I am a content creator, the same way that all the other content creators are protected by the First Amendment of freedom of speech. So we have the ability to speak on this microphone and talk about issues that we want to talk about and break down professional wrestling and just talk about it and have a conversation. And that's all my platform has ever been, is about having a conversation in professional wrestling. I would like to continue to say what I want to say and how I want to say it. And even if some stuff needs a deeper explanation or more of an explanation, I have no problem giving my thoughts and opinions on things that you may not understand, things you want to push back, and just in general, like generalizing how a conversation works. It does not mean that we shut each other down or try to win a conversation or try to do a gotcha. That has been going on way too long in the wrestling community, especially over on the Twitter side of things. But again, I haven't been on Twitter in a good while, and I think that's very helpful because I just know that nothing has changed. And if something has changed, leave it down in the comments below. And I do understand that political topics are very touchy, they're very sensitive. However, how long has it been? It's been years that we have allowed politics to enter into the wrestling space. So my last podcast episode talking about I am Charlie Kirk, because I am a product of that free speech, even though I had been speaking out on these topics long before Charlie decided to really hone in on that. But I am very thankful that Charlie stood firm in freedom of speech and talking with people. Someone like him has to get through the mental state that we are currently in because it is insane. However, back to the whole wrestling and politics. During the pandemic, that was the rise of all the 24/7 activists that we see currently in the wrestling space that is destroying the wrestling space. And I say destroying it because they want to nitpick at everything. They want to flip-flop between everything. They want to become stans of this person, stalk this wrestler, and basically yell at another wrestler when that wrestler doesn't do what the fan wants them to do or wants them to think a particular way or want them to use their platform to raise awareness because they're too scared to use their own platform to do the own raising of awareness that they want to do. Oh, and by the way, the Square Circle podcast basically does not want to hold your hand to tell you how to think and does not want to tell you that you should be agreeing with me all the time, 100% of the time. And I will not tell you what you already want to hear. You're going to hear some stuff that may make you feel uncomfortable, and just an observation that happens that I like to just talk about through the lens of observing what is happening in the wild that we call the internet. Myself and the Square Circle podcast is also not here to affirm anything that you want me to affirm. We're not doing that. We're talking about wrestling. We're talking about politics because this episode deals with WWE going over to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania 43, and I have some thoughts. But before we get there, in 2020, during the pandemic, I think that was the rise of all the activists that have come into the wrestling space to be like, I need a safe space. This is a safe space. You better address this person with their identity. And I will keep saying that stop making your identity your personality and go get a personality. Because the moment that you get a personality and you are so secure within yourself, nothing is going to bother you and nothing is going to distract you, because you know your worth and you know that this is who you are. And you shouldn't try to push that upon others. You shouldn't try to force somebody to be like, well, I am this thing, so you must respect me. And it's like, we may just meet for a moment, a passing in time, for a season. We may not be the best of friends. I may not be going over to your cookouts. So don't try to push that onto me if I'm not going to get to know you as the person that I should be knowing you as. Because, whenever we meet people, we don't go up to them and shake their hand and being like, hi, I'm gay, now refer to me as gay. Or, hi, I'm straight, refer to me as straight. No, we're like, hey, my name is Lisa, how's it going? Hey, my name is Jack, how's it going? We introduce ourselves by our names first, and maybe our titles. Like, Jack could be the CEO of his own computer company and Lisa could be the CEO of a bakery or anything like that, just to give examples. So we sort of introduce our names first rather than what we identify as. And that is how the whole world has worked for centuries. So that way it can be an easier and a very pleasurable experience rather than trying to make people uncomfortable for the sake of making people uncomfortable. And then you're not going to understand why they're uncomfortable. And if they come to you and tell you why they're uncomfortable, they are in the wrong, which is wrong. So those type of people that are pushy, that are agenda first, they are within the wrestling community, and they will go to extremes to either get people fired just because they don't like what they say, or they will try to belittle wrestlers or just do really bad things on the internet. When I say bad things, it's mainly just tweets. The bad thing is when wrestlers get stalkers. So I just wanted to put that into perspective, that we have the 24/7 activists in the wrestling community, and I think it does damage. And because of this topic, which deals with political stuff, I'm going to read two different articles with two different headlines, and you guys be the judge. One is just basically a negative headline with a negative article, and the other one is a positive one. And it's sort of like, wrestling is a business. Wrestling is not about your feelings. Wrestling is not about your activism. If you truly want to be an activist, you have to go out there and activate. It's within the name. You have to go out there and do the verb. You cannot just be like on your phone behind the screen, WWE, I need you to be activists for all of these things that I am activating right now and protesting about. WWE, you have a big platform. You got to use your platform for this and that. And it's like, no, they don't. They really don't. No company has to. A company has to make money to survive and stay afloat, but they don't have to. If they feel they can strongly do it, if it really affects them and their bottom line, then maybe they can do some support and stuff like that. But essentially, big businesses care about their bottom line. They care about the money that comes in. They're not going to care about you wanting them to do whatever you want to do when you're not really going to do it. Okay, so let me get into this. WWE made an announcement along with the Prince to say that WrestleMania 43, which is going to be in 2027, will be at Saudi Arabia during the Riyadh season. This is where I have no time for activists in wrestling for no reason, because, again, it is all about a business. I hope you guys remember that WWE is in a 10-year-long partnership with Saudi Arabia and the government, and they are going to be hosting sports shows over there. They signed a 10-year deal in 2018. It is currently 2025. WWE gave them 7 years. We have 3 years left. And throughout those 7 years, everybody on Twitter got on Twitter and basically tweeted out what they felt about it. And most of the people don't have an idea of anything that happens over on the Middle East and in Saudi Arabia. They just know what mainstream media says and what has been reported. And I don't know why that this pushback is basically still the main talking point. And I'm reading this from Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report over here is very, very negative. This article is super negative. But I just wanted to highlight this one talking point that you guys keep bringing up, and you guys need a new talking point. This talking point is there was even more pushback from a portion of the pro wrestling fan base in 2018 after Saudi-born and U.S.-based journalist Jamal Khashoggi, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced his last name, was murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. That keeps getting brought up as if it's like the best talking point for current times. Nothing happened since 2018 over in Saudi Arabia that had to deal with a USA kind of 50-50 situation. So please stop bringing that up as a talking point. That is in 2018. That was 7 years ago. You need to have current or at least like up-to-date talking points to basically convince other people that why WWE should not go to Saudi Arabia. Do you guys also remember that on Twitter, everybody was clutching their pearls and they were like, WWE, cancel your Saudi show, because our administration decided to go and bomb Iran to make sure that they don't use any of the nuclear weapons and all that kind of stuff. Everybody was safe. Everybody understood the assignment. Nobody decided to lash back. While there was an opportunity for that to happen, it didn't happen, because when you fuck around and find out, people get the message, aka what happened this past week. That's why there's no protesting out in the streets right now and everybody is quiet. But when it comes to wrestling fans think that they know it all and they want to believe what's good, but they do that so that way they can grift to you. That way they can sell you a product and they can be like, hey, I feel so concerned about the wrestlers only when it like affects my bottom dollar. That's exactly what they do on Twitter, and people fall for it. And people still want to be like, I have empathy. The wrestlers can get hurt. And it's like, you need to know geography. Saudi Arabia is not that close to Iran and what's happening over there in the Middle East. There is a huge ass mountain that divides all of these territories. It will take a lot for something to happen because there are mountains. Now, somebody can say that they can also use their air force, but I think that the Saudi prince will definitely have a big red button as well, and definitely unleash hell if anything were to happen. I also don't know where this word sports washing came from. The definition of this in the same Bleacher Report reporting states, it is the act of distracting from atrocities through the use of sports. So are we entertainment washing everything because we want to be distracted from the atrocities through the use of movies, award shows, music, concerts? Does that work? Because it only seems like wrestling fans hate wrestling and supposed writers hate wrestling, and they want to make a negative piece so that way the algorithm and Google can basically bless them with pennies from the ad revenue, because that doesn't make any sense. That we have this sports washing where it's like, let's forget about the atrocities. And it was just one person dying over there. One person dying where you can go and read what happened, but it happened over there. And of course, people are just like, oh, that's an atrocity, but like, what other atrocities? And that might sound very dismissive, but again, if there isn't a consistent line of killing this person, that person, this person, that person over there in Saudi Arabia, then I think that Saudi Arabia is trying their best to progress their strictness And if you can't see that, and if you don't want to see that, then that's a you problem. And the only reason why I bring that up is because while scrolling through Instagram, the other wrestling content creators that are on there was picking apart the picture and the words from Bianca Belair. But they were picking apart the pictures of like, oh, look, the wrestlers don't want to be there. They don't seem very happy because they got to go to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is no good for women and it's so strict. And it's like, again, why are you trying to impose what happens here in another land that you have no immunity towards? You don't. You, as an American that goes over to Saudi Arabia, you have to abide by their laws. The same way that if somebody from some other place, it could be from Saudi or some other third world country that decides to come over here, you have to abide by American laws. If you don't, things happen. That's just how it is. Because it's like, you can't go over there to be like, well, I'm an American and all of my rights work in Saudi Arabia. That's not how that works. No, unless you are a diplomat, that is the only way that you can have your American rights over there. But all of us are not diplomats, so it doesn't count. So your freedom of speech that you get here and your freedom of expression that you get here for however amount of clothes you want to wear doesn't work over there. And that's totally okay. You have to abide by their laws and their rules. And I bring this up because the content creators who were making these videos, looking at the wrestlers, and then Bianca saying that it is history making for the women and it's cool to go over there. And while, yes, I agree, it did sound like a corporate answer, she's 100% right. Bianca is 100% right. It is history making for the women, even if they have to dress up head to toe and obey the laws. Oh my God, clutch your pearls. But that's how it is over there. You have to respect their law because you're entering into their home. The same way that you have ground rules for when people come over to your house, and I hope you have ground rules, the same way that you have ground rules for your house, every single nation around this world has their own ground rules. Every single country has their own ground rules. All you have to do is respect it. But over here in America, we forgot what respect is. Anyway, I do think that Saudi Arabia is progressing when it comes to women and clothing and the way that they think. Like I said, it's never going to be overnight, but there is a progression that has been showing, and the prince seems to be very like, look, we have a long way to go, but at least the women can wrestle in WWE and they could be shown off in the ring, regardless of the fans booing the black wrestlers. Because I know that was a thing, and I saw some people in the comments and stuff like that. Listen, if they boo the black wrestlers, just turn heel at that point and turn it back on them, and it should be okay. It should be okay. Now, we will never know, truthfully and fully, if the Saudis are booing the black wrestlers because they're black or just because it's a show and they're booing. But regardless, the wrestlers should take that opportunity to be a heel, welcome the boos, rather than the fans trying to fuel something that may not be there. You know, when you jump the gun and you go to conclusions right away, it may not even be that. Until a good number of Saudis basically tell you that, yes, it is this, then we could be like, hey, that's not cool for all of these reasons. Like, thank you for giving them the platform to be there, but it's still not cool to do that. But if they're doing it for the character and just because, then, you know, let them do it. They're a fan, they're attending. While it may not be right and you may feel some type of way about it, it's just a boo. It's just an emotion. And it's just a one-time event that happens over there on a yearly basis. And again, they have 3 years until their contract is up. But over here in the States, we kind of go cheer and boo whoever we want to please. So why can that not happen somewhere else without trying to attach a label to it, without trying to attach a bias to it, you know? So let me talk about another comment that I saw, because again, the content creators that you see on Instagram and TikTok, they basically tell you what you already know and what you already want to hear, rather than like any other kind of perspective. And then commentators will come into the comment section and say the part that other people are thinking about, but other people really don't care about. That makes sense. So I remember seeing a comment from a guy, unfortunately, that basically said that it is degrading to the women wrestlers to go over there to dress up head to toe because they can't express themselves. They can't wear what they wear in America over at Saudi and a bunch of other nonsense. And of course it got likes. Of course the author on this video, I don't remember which one it was. I saw one that a female did one and then also a male did one. And it just wants to confirm their bias towards Saudi because of everything that they hear on the media, because of everything that gets twisted. I am of the belief that you should be questioning everything. You should be researching on your own with no distractions. You should be learning. You should be a student of the game rather than being a sheep and a follower to be like, yeah, that's totally right. While we do know, the fact is, because of what we do know, that over in Saudi and the Middle East, they do have the women dressed up from head to toe. Again, it is not our place to tell them, hey, you need to be more like the United States and you need to show your skin more. So what I wanted to say was that after reading that comment, it is so sad, because it's really unfair that you can say to another country, this is degrading. But here in America, when a girl turns 18 years old, or they're in their mid-20s or 30s, right? Not even mid-30s, just like from like 18 to 30 years old here in America, what do the women do automatically? They open up an OnlyFans. And the male writer who wrote that comment and everybody else, maybe some females too, those are the first people that go and subscribe to an OnlyFans model subscription, and they will never call that degrading. They will call that empowerment. They will call that, yes, girl, get that bag. But yet then when WWE goes over to Saudi Arabia to put on a show and tell the people in a very, I guess, metaphorical way, in a storytelling way, in a kayfabe way, that you could get over your obstacles when you come together and we have this entertaining show, and that women are involved. And you as a woman, if you want to become a wrestler, you could get inspired and you could do things just, you know, outside a little bit more. You could progress a little bit more. I am trying to find the right words for this, but it brings hope to Saudi Arabia that they can witness women do something that they were always told, no, you have to follow this strict plan for being a woman, that you can't break out of this box. And here we come to just teach them, yeah, you can. It's going to take time for Saudi Arabia to get to a place where women can be seen as, I don't want to say equal, because a woman will not be seen equal to a man, but there will be unity there. They will be counted upon as the good counterpiece to a man, because we work in unison, and what I can do, a man cannot do. And what a man could do, I cannot do. But when we put our brains together and when we put our love together, we can conquer things together because we need each other. We're 50-50, if that makes sense. That was just such a long way of trying to say that WWE makes history over there by giving hope to the women, and maybe the prince could be like, yeah, we need each other. The two sexes need each other. And it's not just about trying to be equal, because again, we cannot be equal, but the fact of showing them that you could be much more than this, that kind of inspiration to take from that. But again, I will say this, that if somebody is saying that dressing head to toe is degrading to women, but you will not say that a woman opening up an OnlyFans is not degrading, you have a problem with lusting after the woman's body. But I will say this in the same breath, that women are beautiful. We are beautiful creatures. And I even say to other women that they look gorgeous and they look beautiful. So I don't ever want someone to be like, oh my God, Marie, you became so strict and all this kind of stuff. Like, what is happening? No, I'm just laying out the observation of what I see, how I see it, and what I'm relaying to you guys. And I really think that this is the conversation for this, because to continue to have that bias, but yet then you're going to go and watch the WrestleMania pay-per-view over at Saudi because you need to cover it if you are in the space of wrestling content creation. Don't be a hypocrite in the comments of other people's videos to be like, it's degrading. Oh shit, you got an OnlyFans? I'll subscribe for $5.99. Like, what are you talking about? You just said that it's degrading for one country to have their women dress up head to toe, but it's not degrading when a woman has to show herself and be like, this is me, guys. I need you to understand and give me money for my self-worth, rather than trying to push them to do skills. Over in the Middle East, they're probably pushing the women to create their own skills and be proud of themselves, even though they have to dress up head to toe. Like, that's not really a problem. I'm more of the go and try to make your own skill set. So that way you don't have to rely on people as much as you think, or as much as the media says, oh, hey, you should rely on us. Go out there, make yourself an individual. And showing your body does have mental repercussions, but nobody wants to talk about that. I just wanted to bring awareness to the fact of, if you are not saying it's degrading for a woman to have an OnlyFans, but you're saying it's degrading for a woman to dress up head to toe just because you can't see their body, there is something wrong with you. Over at the Sportster, there is an article here that is completely negative. Let me just read the headline. It says, WWE failed to sell Saudi officials on a WrestleMania branded event instead of the real thing. Now, I don't know how true this is. It's probably not true at all, because nobody is talking to the wrestling journalists on Twitter. No one's talking to any one of them. The only person that I will still believe is Nick Lopocolo, which I believe I mispronounced his name again, but he's the only person that I'll believe, because he's an actual agent that has a lot of WWE wrestlers under his contract status, where he gets to be like, hey, I represent them. But all the other wrestling journalists, I do not believe any of their supposed journalism and the news that comes out of them, because again, no one is talking to them. How do you end up getting information right after the announcement of WWE going to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania? How do you get more information to be like, oh yeah, originally they were going to try to sell them on a WrestleMania type of event? Like, what? No. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. They keep everything so strict and secret nowadays. Even though apparently in this one it said that the Saudi prince took to Snapchat. Who knew that they had Snapchat? Meaning who knew that they got on Snapchat to say that WWE is coming to Saudi Arabia in 2027. Everything from the wrestling journalists are just speculation, but they take it as fact, as if they have real true insiders that will give them this information, knowing that this information is very sensitive and it's only allowed to the public when they do announcements like this. So the second article that is positive from the Sportster is basically the headline states why WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia is a positive move. It is a positive move because the Saudis get to experience something that Americans have been experiencing for decades and years. And also Toronto. Toronto is part of that too. Toronto experienced WrestleMania 18. So why does wrestling fans have a problem with WWE going to Saudi Arabia when WWE stands for World Wrestling Entertainment? They go everywhere around the world. Around the world should be experiencing WWE. And if you don't like it, then please leave and take your activism somewhere else, because we really don't need that. The Saudi government is never going to be perfect. The American government is never going to be perfect. I said on the last podcast episode called I Am Charlie Kirk, at the end, I said that we should be embracing the imperfection rather than the perfection, because when you have perfection, you end up getting bored and you end up just doing stupid shit. If we are imperfect, this is where we can sort of understand each other and get a common ground and also agree to disagree and then exchange ideas to find solutions and improve the overall quality of life. The only difference is that while WrestleMania 43 2027 will be over in Saudi Arabia, that means that the wrestling companies over here in America, including the indie promotions, now have an opening to basically show the world who they are. I was going to try to make like a bird reference when they like puff up their chest to be like, this is me, who I am. You know, all the wrestling promotions get to be a peacock that whole entire week that used to be WrestleMania week. Every single year we had WrestleMania week for the indies. Now promotions can use that spot to hype themselves up, to get new fans, to get more money, to get more revenue. There might be some American fans that have the money to go over to Saudi Arabia. And if you do, go do it. Go take that chance, but don't be stupid over there. Don't be stupid because you don't have diplomatic immunity. Don't be stupid. Go follow their laws. Go have a great time over at Saudi Arabia. So I would say that the indie scene is going to be flourishing while WrestleMania is over at Saudi during that week. And I think that that is a positive and not a negative. Someone will turn it into a negative. We know this. So in the positive, the sections go, gives more WWE fans the WrestleMania experience. That's not a bad thing. Potential Hall of Fame changes. Saudis get to experience the Hall of Fame, which is cool. But then again, you're going to have to think about who can fly over, who could get a visa, who could be accepted into international waters and all that stuff that has to be taken care of. But it does give the chance of having the Hall of Fame somewhere else. Helping Saudi Arabia grow as a country. The writer writes, every wrestling fan has individual opinions about Saudi Arabia's politics and laws, but having such events such as WrestleMania take place there does help the country's growth. Significant improvements have already been made since the start of WWE's relationship. For instance, the initial event that happened didn't feature any women on the card at all. So why are you guys complaining and saying that it is degrading to women? Now, throughout all the 7 years of their contract, if Saudi was like, no, we want no women at all, and it has been a consistent thing, then you guys can use your voices to be like, yo, that's not fair. Saudi, you want progression, you need to have the women on the card. But after the first event over at Saudi, they were like, yeah, you know what? Let's continue to have the women for the next event and the event after that and the event after that, because the Saudi people made a big deal about not seeing women on there. So the prince actually listened to his people rather than the activists online that wanted to be like, oh my God, how dare you? You guys are still degrading towards women. This is why I say that you guys don't know anything and you guys stick to a very simple script rather than opening up your mind and looking at it like, oh my God, that's totally right. We have been featuring more women over in Saudi Arabia. That is a win. It may not be a win for you to lust over their body and the sexy outfits, but it's a win nonetheless that they're like, okay, women can be on the card. It is okay. It is great to see. My point being is that you don't continuously talk about the negatives when the positives outweigh the negatives, because a negative could be like the first show didn't have women and they heard the backlash. And what did the prince do? The prince basically fixed that for the next event and the rest of the events to tell WWE, hey, bring over the women, please. If that is not progress, then I don't know what is. That is 100% progress. Slow progress is still progress. The other section on this article says, massive WrestleMania entrances. You want it to feel like a spectacle. The other section says, helping WWE's international growth, because you got to make money, right? You are a business. You got to make money. The next section says, inspiring new professional wrestlers. That is the goal of wrestling. Inspire everyone. Inspire those that want to be wrestlers, that want to be referees, that want to be cameramen, that want to be managers, that want to be anything and everything within professional wrestling. There is a job for you in professional wrestling. So inspiring new professional wrestlers around the world is a plus. It is a sign. WWE can bring legends over to the Saudi events as well. And that is a treat for the people. So let me round out this part because I do want to talk a little bit about ticket prices and just my thoughts on that. But WWE going to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania 43 is 100% a business move and will always be a business move no matter what. It has nothing to do with any politics. It has nothing to do with any of that. My problem is that we have 24/7 activists that want to talk, but they never want to listen and they never want to do any kind of research. But they want you to hear them loud. And usually the loudest ones are the stupidest ones. I would just say that right now. But my other problem is that it's a WWE event. Why do we get to have WWE all the time and no one else around the world? Why can they not experience it? Because their values and their beliefs and their mental capacity doesn't align with yours? That is really upsetting because people should enjoy wrestling, right? They should enjoy wrestling. And that includes people around the world that may never have the money or the resources to come over to the United States to enjoy a WWE high profile event. So what does a circus do? A circus brings that joy and entertainment to everywhere else around the world. WWE is no different. Despite it being corporate and despite it making money and they care about their bottom dollar as all businesses do. But WWE is no different. WWE will bring the entertainment to anywhere in the world. And that is a positive. Now, if you guys are going to be missing out on WrestleMania, that's okay too. WrestleMania week, I would hope and believe that is going to be filled with all kinds of indie promotions and all kinds of shows. And if you want to save your money, go to one of those shows, help out the shows, support the indies, support the promotions. Everybody likes to talk a big game on social media because it is very easy to do performative. It is very easy to perform for your audience. I don't do that here. I don't perform for my audience. What you get, what you hear is 100% my authentic self. And what you see is basically my content. And if I can, I will go out there to still be a freelance worker. I am still a freelance worker, but to go out there and lend my hand in professional wrestling because I love it. The same way that I love standing up for freedom of speech and talking about topics and shit like that. But if you want to put your money where your mouth is when you say that let's support the indies, Make sure to do that in 2027. So that way it could just be like, oh, you're not just talk on the internet. You go and go support the indies. I think that they're going to probably put together something big. So go and do that. Now, as I say that, let's quickly talk about the WWE prices, those ticket prices. Those ticket prices are insane. Okay. We can agree with that. They are insane. And if you really want to hurt them, where it hurts the most, which is their wallet, their bank account, even though it may not even cause like a huge dip. But if you stop going to WWE events, which is very difficult for everyone to probably get on board with that, you can go spend your money over at Major League Wrestling that starts at $15. And they have some upcoming shows in your local area if you cannot make it to a WWE event. We have the Long Beach, California area for Slaughterhouse. And we also have the Lucha de los Muertos event coming up too in October. So MOW.com for your tickets and where they're at. I just remember Slaughterhouse being in Cali and they start at $15 a pop. The most you'll pay is maybe like $50 for like front row and stuff, but that's like a good deal. It's a very, very good deal either way. There are indie promotions that are out and about in your local area, and those tickets are $10. I know from personal experience that they're $10. There is AEW if you want to go to an AEW show, and there is TNA if you want to go to a TNA show. There are options out there. The more that you complain without actually doing the work to show that you're serious about making sure that TKO knows to at least lower the prices, you're not helping the situation, because TKO also needs to take the fans seriously if there is a huge problem with regular casual fans and lifelong fans that cannot go anymore because TKO is treating WWE as if it's like a big fight night event just for the month. Like how UFC is looked upon and marketed as like, hey, we got this huge card and it's for this month. You know, you better spend $1,000 because the next one is in like 3 months kind of deal. WWE is not like that. And I do think that TKO doesn't understand what WWE is, or they do, but they look at it from a different perspective in that of, this is what happens when you take one of those webinars that promises you to build a community with everybody else. And this is how I succeed on YouTube and you could do it too. Just come to this webinar, and you go to the webinar and you find out that these guys are telling you that you need to have high ticket profile sort of entry fees, right? In order to make the money that they are making, because people will pay for it. And I'm starting to realize that this may be the way that TKO is thinking, that WWE is such a high profile name. It's so recognizable. It's everywhere around the world. Therefore, we're TKO. Therefore, we've seen people shove out $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for the UFC. And we also seen this, people shoving out the same exact amount of money for WWE. So we're going to keep the ticket prices high because they know that someone is going to pay for it. I don't think that this is a supply and demand issue, you know, because if it was a supply and demand, that means that they would have to create more physical tickets. But we buy everything online, so everything is digital in order to fill up the arenas and the stadiums and stuff. And I know that there's a certain amount of tickets that can be sold, because if you go over that, it is a fire hazard here in the United States. However, again, I don't think this is a supply and demand issue. I just think that TKO wants to make as much money as they can. And because they think in richness already, because they are rich and they have a lot of business ventures and they're getting a lot of deals and all this kind of stuff, the people that they speak around, the people that they hang out with, especially whenever they have like UFC events, They see it as, oh my God, this person's status is that of money. Now, again, I don't know what they think like this, but you could just put two and two together and you could just observe, and it could probably ring true with everything that's been put in place. But they probably have some sense like that. Oh, a rich person decided to buy a $2,000 seat for the UFC. I don't know how close that is, but just follow me. So a rich person decided to buy a $2,000 worth for this seat at the UFC, and one of the TKO board members gets to hang out with them, and then they get to talk about stuff. And then that's like a status symbol that they get to have this opportunity to talk to somebody because they had the money for it. So they probably think in terms of, if they see it happening in the UFC of people spending a lot of money, they're going to translate that over to WWE, and that's why the ticket prices are so high. Now, it could be other factors too, like the buildings that they get to have the home shows and the recorded shows, that the building may be like, hey, it's X amount of money to rent it out, so they have to up the prices and the fees just a little bit. Like, that could be a factor. There could be other factors other than TKO seeing dollar signs, because the demographic that are going to the shows now might be similar to the demographic of the UFC shows, if that makes any sense. But like I said, if you guys truly want TKO to listen to you guys, to try to listen to you guys, you gotta hurt them where it hurts the most. And that is their bank account, even if it might be just a slight dip. You never know. Even though sometimes probably rich people don't even care if it's a slight dip, but this is a family event that cares about the people, and WWE has done that for years. So you never know what you can actually do through true activism. And you don't need to virtue single about it online. You really don't. You can document it, but you don't have to act like, oh, guys, look at me, I'm special. I didn't go to a WWE event because of those ticket prices. Like, you don't have to do something like that. You don't have to do something over the top. You could just be like, hey, I'm spending my money at this local indie promotion because I had the opportunity and it was right within my budget. If you want to check them out, here's all their socials. That's fine. But just don't like overdo it for the sake of trying to virtual single for others. All right, guys, that is all from me, Marie Shadows, and the Square Circle podcast, talking about WWE going over to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania 43 for 2027. And then also talking a little bit about ticket prices, and that ticket prices going up for WWE is not a good thing. But like I said, I gave you a solution, an idea to try and get TKO's attention, to be like, hey, this isn't right. It should be family friendly for all in a family event. So that way people here can experience it, just like going over to Saudi Arabia, they can experience it too. You want people to experience it because it is World Wrestling Entertainment. After this, I will be talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling in the next podcast episode. And then Discord Notes Volume 7 will be happening soon. And if you enjoy the Discord Notes Volume 7, that is over at patreon.com/Marie Shadows. When I drop Discord Notes Volume 7, I will be explaining why I have my Patreon again rather than Fourth Wall. I still have Fourth Wall for all of my merchandise, but for community building, I went back on Patreon, and I'll be explaining in Discord Notes Volume 7. However, that is only on Patreon. So sign up just for like a free membership if you want to. You could handle paid later, but sign up for a free membership. Do not lose access to that, because Discord Notes Volume 7 will not be on the Square Circle podcast feed going forward. I will say that again. The Squared Circle podcast feed will be having wrestling conversations going forward. Tape Study will also be on Patreon. Discord Notes will be on Patreon. The Crossroads interviews and editorials will be on Patreon. Anything wrestling related, such as reviewing shows, such as talking about WrestleMania and Saudi and stuff like that, and anything else I want to talk about wrestling, including New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, anything that my wonderful community has given me to talk about and look at, will be strictly on the Square Circle podcast. The Square Circle podcast is still free, So don't worry about that. However, I ask that you join me on Patreon for any other shows that you want to stay up to date with, any other conversations that you want to stay up to date with. If you want to follow me, Marie Shadows, and everything that I do, Patreon is the place to be. Join me over at Patreon for extra content. It is our place to talk about things, talk about life, check in on each other, and basically exchange ideas, exchange solutions, exchange just conversations. I want conversations to continue even outside of the world of wrestling. And I know that my main content is professional wrestling. I get that, but I am a layered female named Marie Shadows. I am layered. I am emotional. I am female, obviously. And I want to talk about other things. That's what the Discord notes is about. That's what the Crossroads series is about, is talking about other things outside of professional wrestling. Because, again, how many times can I say that wrestling needs to improve, but nothing is really happening at this very, very moment. And sometimes we need to slow down from the actual passion that we have to focus on other things. And sometimes life comes at you kind of hard and kind of quick and kind of emotional depending on stuff. But I do want to have other conversations. And if that's something that you like to have as well, follow me over at patreon.com/Marie Shadows. That link will be down in the description box and also the comment section. If you just want wrestling, you could just stay here on Spotify, and even outside of Spotify, that's totally fine. But the door is always open for you to just come in and listen to the other conversations if you want to. The door is always open. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.